Hello friends, welcome to the new apartment, welcome to my new office, welcome to my new bookshelves. Everything's gonna echo. Everything is absolutely gonna echo. There is like nothing in this house right now. We just got the keys to the apartment like 4 days ago, I don't really remember at this point, and I immediately picked up my new bookshelves and built them. That's like the only way to christen your apartment at this point. Like, you've got to get your bookshelves into the apartment first and foremost and get your books on the shelves. That just seems most logical to me. So today, while I'm waiting for our refrigerator to be delivered, because yes, we had to get our own refrigerator for this apartment, I'm going to get as many books on the shelf as I can. We were here the other day because we had to drop off a few things, and I did already do the Robin Hobb shelf. I did. And here's the thing, that's just like the norm for me. When we moved into our last place, Robin Hobb was first. Robin Hobb was first and foremost, as it should be. And honestly, most of these boxes that I did end up bringing over first are some of my favorite series. Of course, I've got to get them on the shelves first. So there's a couple things that are going to happen in this video. I'm obviously going to be, you could say, organizing. I'm just going to be setting up my bookshelves in this new apartment, but also I'm going to try and either download an app or build a tracker for all of my unread books. Last year, I was really good about scanning in all of my own books to Storygraph, but the thing is, first and foremost, I did not keep up with it throughout the year. So that's not even up to date anymore. And secondly, I really just want a tracker that's for all of my unread books, because that is obviously been my major goal throughout the last 3 years that I've had a YouTube channel. I've always wanted to just read down my own TBR. I know it's never gonna go away. My TBR is never just gonna be 0, because that's just not who I am. But the intention is to try to have more owned books that I've read than unread, I guess, because it gets really overwhelming. When I first moved to LA, which is almost 5 years ago now, I want to say that only a quarter, and that's being generous, of the books that I owned were read, and I owned 2 times as many books as I own now. I'm gonna guesstimate that now only a quarter of what I own is unread. That's a guess. That's probably off, but I've done a really good job of reading my physical TBR, and I have done a really good job of like unhauling things when I've tried my hardest, when I've tried my best and I didn't succeed. So yeah, long story short, to get to the point, I'm either trying to build a tracker or find a tracker that can best tell me all of my unread books. I want to do that as I'm unpacking these, because I didn't do that last time and it was a mess. I'm gonna eat a snack first, actually, and then we're gonna get into this. I made popcorn. If you don't know this about me, I'm obsessed with popcorn, and I haven't had a microwave in 1.5 years, and I have one now. And I made some popcorn. So it is technically day 3 of working on this bookshelf, but I don't really count the first day because I just brought the books over and did my Robin Hobb shelf, obviously. And then, yeah, you saw the other day where I pretty much unboxed everything that was here, sort of try to organize them by the shelves that I want to put them on. I have an idea of what I'm going to do. And now I have 4 boxes and 4 bags left of books. And we're going to see if I can actually get these all on the shelves today. I believe in myself, but I also don't think I have enough room. Personally, I'm still waiting on if I want to get a little skinny legend bookshelf or if I'm going to buy a big boy. I need a big boy. Because the thing is, I do have room for another big shelf, but here's my issue. Here's something that I struggle with. See this here, if I do get another big boy, there's not going to be a lot of room to open this closet. And while that shouldn't bother me, I'm me, and it does. So I have to see if it's something that I can get over, because otherwise the skinny ledge, she can fit perfectly right there. No problems. Don't have to move anything around. So I'm going to have to make that decision sooner or later. But currently, I'm going to fuel myself on popcorn. Sitting in my dream room right now, which I didn't think that I would be saying to you while going through this move, because honestly the shock of having to move, the whole situation with this move was really a downer for me. Also, I'm so sorry if you can hear the air conditioning. It is hot today and I just have to cool this place off. I really didn't think that I would be sitting here saying this to you, let alone sitting in my dream chair. This is like my first legit reading chair. This is my first legit reading room, to be honest. While I had all of my shelves in one place in the last house, I didn't read in there. It was literally just where my books were living at the time and where I did like editing and sprints and stuff like that. But there was no real room for a chair. There was no real room to make that space this. And I'm just sitting in here and I'm so happy because I didn't think that during this move I would ever have this. Before we get into the tour of the shelves and me taking you through how many unread books I have, I wanted to give y'all an update because I kept talking about how I was gonna get a little skinny legend bookshelf, because the Billy bookshelves at IKEA, they have like a skinnier version of these. Turns out that they don't make a skinny version of the ones that I got. So the Billy bookshelves are like a little bit skinnier and they have 6 shelves. Mine are a little wider and have 5 shelves. My plan was to put the skinny ledge right here, like catty corner behind this chair, but that's just not gonna happen. So I'm gonna put a lamp probably above this and maybe some art or a faux tree. I don't really know. I mean, in theory, and probably down the line, it's not gonna happen immediately. I'll probably push these all the way down and get another one of this size bookshelf, but that's just not gonna happen right now because I'm still reconciling the fact that it's going to be like so close to the closet and it's gonna be a little bit inconvenient to get into that side of the closet. So because I don't have an extra shelf yet, I I do have some stacks of books that I'm not sure what to do with at this point in time. They might have to live in the closet for a time, which is what happened at the last place. But yeah, I don't really know what to do with them. It's pretty much all my nonfiction and literary fiction. I do have 2 floating shelves that will be in my bedroom, but I don't know if I want them all on there, and I also don't think they'll all fit. So my thought is maybe I can just put them at the very top of these bookshelves for the time being. Again, I don't know if they will all fit, and I don't think the extenders actually fit on these shelves either. I think the extenders are for the Billy bookshelves. So anyway, let me give you like a small tour of what we have going on. It's not going to be a full book by book tour, but I am going to take you through and show you what each shelf is and like the genres and kind of what I was thinking, and we will talk about how many unread books I have. Okay, so we are starting out with the first 2 shelves, which are on my left-hand side, and this is my YA shelves. The top one is some YA that I love and others I just haven't read yet, and then the second shelf is like all of the YA that I've loved over the years and still really love and reread. Most of them are series that like either got me back into reading or series that I read as they were coming out and really loved them. So The Hunger Games, for example. So yeah, these are just my YA shelves. I've pared down over the years of all of the YA that I have. So the majority of these are actually read. There are only a few that are unread. And then the top shelf here is a mixture of adult fantasy, some that I have read, others that I really want to read. They're mainly the first in different series that I'm interested in. As a matter of fact, I think everything except for the Chorus of Dragons series, which is the one that's all stacked on top of each other, are all the first in series. And then The Sky on Fire is a standalone. So yeah, I have a lot of series that I want to read. And then below that, we have my horror shelf and weird girl fiction / horror, I guess you could say. Most of these are actually read, so that's fun. These are like some of my most favorite horror books. It makes sense to me that most of these are read because I actually don't go out of my way to buy brand new horror books because it's just so hit or miss for me. So it makes sense that this is like majority read and things that I've loved. And then below the horror shelf is my sci-fi shelf, which is another like smaller section because I don't read a ton of sci-fi. I have learned over the years that sci-fi is extremely hit or miss for me. So to be quite honest, most of these, well, actually more of them are read than I thought they would be, but there are a lot unread on here as well. So I really need to work through that. And then these are the middle bottom 2 shelves. The very bottom one is just a bunch of graphic novels. Those are some of my favorite graphic novels. I think the only 2 I haven't read there is In Limbo and Wash Day Diaries. And then the rest of the shelf is miscellaneous fantasy books. As you know, fantasy is probably my #1 read genre, if not fantasy romance. So like that's what's taking over all of my shelves. And I actually decided to make the majority of the shelves fantasy at this point. If you go to the second shelf above this bottom shelf, it is all fantasy as well. This is a mixture of some of my favorite series, like the 5th season. I really enjoyed, what is that duology called? The one with the Killing Moon and the Shadowed Sun. I really enjoyed that by N.K. Jemisin. Those have been like my top N.K. Jemisin series that I've read. And then there's a combination of things that I have read and haven't read on this shelf. And then these 2 shelves are arguably my favorite shelves of all time because it consists of some of my favorite books of all time, like my 6-star books and series. So the top shelf is The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. If you've been around my channel for some time, you will know that I am a huge fan of The Realm of the Elderlings. I am a huge fan of Robin Hobb. Even though I would beat her up, I am still a huge fan. She created some of my favorite characters of all time. And I don't think there has ever been an author to make me feel as many emotions as Robin Hobb has. I don't think there has been another author to do that for me. And then below that shelf, some of my favorite series. I love the David Bod trilogy, and the short story collection is just chef's kiss. I really liked The Adventures of Amin al-Sarafi. It's actually probably not my favorite book of all time, but because I love S.A. Chakraborty so much, it had to go there, it had to live there. And then the Greenbone Saga, oh my God, what a wonderful time, or a devastating time. I don't really know your take on that, but I love it. One of my favorite series of all time as well. I've reread it like 3 times at this point, and every time I get something new out of it. We have Blood Over Bright Haven, which I love. I don't know why I did that. I realized that my I just realized that my Blood Over Bright Havens are split up. I will be fixing that. Hold on. Yeah, genuinely don't know why that happened, but I fixed it. But Blood Over Bright Haven was one of my favorite books last year. Sword of Kaigan was one of my favorite books 2 years prior. That one also devastated me. If you are looking for devastation, look no further than these shelves, to be quite honest with you. Loved The Goblin Emperor. The Vanished Birds, you know I absolutely love it. So yeah, these are two of my favorite shelves, and they definitely had to take center stage. And then at the very top above my Robin Hobb shelf, I have another mixture of different fantasy series. A lot of them are first in a series, which I haven't read yet or gotten to yet. Some of them are standalones, some of them I have read. It's all a mix. It's all a mish and a mash. And then I guess I can talk about all three of these shelves, because all three of these shelves are some variation of fantasy romance and paranormal romance. Lighter on the paranormal, but on the very top shelf, there's like a chunk of paranormal romance, and then it moves into some more fantasy romance. Again, these are like a mixture of things that I've read and haven't read. The second shelf is once again a mixture of things that I have or haven't read. In this scenario, I actually have the second or third book of a series because I have read all of the first in those series. And then the third shelf is all read, and it's all books that I love, like some of my favorite fantasy romance that I have read. I don't know if I consider Throne of Glass a fantasy romance series. I guess it leans a little heavier on the fantasy than it does the romance, but romance is still a huge part of the series. So I did put it in this section because Sarah J Maas is just known as a fantasy romance author. And this is really the only series that I ride for when it comes to Sarah J Maas. I have no opinions of the other series. I've enjoyed books and hated books from both of those series, but Throne of Glass, I've pretty much liked everything, and I can foresee myself rereading this, absolutely. I noticed that the sun was getting in the way, so I closed the blinds a little bit. Sorry for the lighting change, but we also have Spark of the Everflame. I do really love that series, even though I'm still upset about the fourth book not coming out on time. That's a whole other conversation. I love the Teheda Mafi, this Woven Kingdoms series, so much so that I have paperback and hardback editions of the series. And then you know that I love the Serpent and the Wings of Night series, although the newest one in that series was not a banger for me by any means. So nervous about the next one, but still holding out some hope, I guess. And then the last two shelves, I'm so sorry, they're gonna be completely blocked by my chair, but it's just my romance shelves, my contemporary romance shelves. As y'all may have noticed in the last 2 years, maybe just year and a half really, I've been really into contemporary romance, and at the end of last year and beginning of this year so far, it's been very comforting for me. It's been something to help me escape. And I think that's just par for the course for me. I always go through phases with my favorite genres where one takes precedent each year that I read like the most of. So that is contemporary romance currently this year. We'll see if that continues, but my contemporary romance collection is really growing. I used to never buy contemporary romance because I just often didn't get to them or I didn't enjoy them. But now that I'm really understanding what I love in contemporary romance, it's just been hit after hit for me. So yeah, the top shelf there actually is mostly read. I would say that it's a lot of my favorite contemporary romances so far, and I've read the majority of them. And then the bottom shelf has a mixture of read and unread. It has more unread than read. So I've counted everything that I own on these shelves and how many of them are unread. The other books that haven't gone on a shelf, I did not count. I will calculate those in at a different time when I figure out actually what I'm doing with those books. But currently, we're talking about these shelves right here, these bad boys. So you can take a guess down below how many books I own and how many are unread. But currently, I own 389 books. I I know people have way smaller TBRs than this, like owned TBRs than this, but I feel good about this number, okay? I have 158 unread books. And here's the thing, you may hear that number and be like, oh my God, that's a lot of unread books still, Stephanie. What do you mean? And to that I say, I have come a long way. I have come a long way. I, at one point, counted how many books I owned and like how many were unread. I think I did this last year at some point. If not, the end of 2023, and I still had upwards of like 200 unread books and even more owned books. And at that time, I was also very proud of that number because I was coming from a place of where I was just buying any old thing. I was buying anything and everything. And so to go from that girl who was like always buying books to fill holes, even though I love buying books, I will always buy books. I've always wanted a library, but that version of me before was not doing it for the love of books or like the love of collecting things that I love or I'm actually going to read. That was not where I was at. And so now I feel like I'm very, for the most part, selective in what I bring in. Not always, but for the most part, I'm not buying whole series at this point in my life. I will buy the first in a lot of series that I'm interested in. I just mean this to say, like, I've made a lot of progress in my journey with buying things in general, and books being one of them. And I'm just really proud of myself for having a library that I'm like really proud of. And I look at these books and I'm excited to have them on my shelf, or I'm excited to finally get to them, which is, you know, not always been the case. So honestly, that's really the only reason that number matters to me, is just because I'm really curious about my progress with that, and like how I'm curating my shelves and how my consuming of books, like buying books and like reading books, changes throughout the years. And I can tell you that these shelves look so different than, what was that, 2020 me? Late 2020 me? Her shelves looked very different than these shelves. I've discovered so many new favorite authors. I've discovered so many new favorite genres, just like I was saying with contemporary romance. Absolutely love it. I would have never said that in late 2020. I didn't think contemporary romance was for me, but I think with most any genre, you just have to find the right author for you, and I've definitely found that. So anyway, I'm done ranting. Thank you so much for coming along this journey with me. I hope that you enjoyed watching me put together my shelves, and I will definitely give more updates about what happens with the rest of the books. And maybe I'll even like do something fun with these numbers. I don't know. I did make an Excel sheet with all of my unread books, so there is like a possibility of me trying to pull from that Excel sheet. But I mean, I have Read It Down, so Read It Down forces me to pick things that I own. If you've made it this far and you want to leave an emoji to say hi, feel free to leave a chair or couch emoji down below, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, friends.